Hi, good morning and good evening in Vietnam. This is Huy, and today we're joined by Ella and Rafael, the founders of Vulcan. Uh,
Hello.
they're waving at 8 p.m. at night in Vietnam. Thank you for joining us. This is our monthly founders spotlight where we interview founders of technology companies around the world. Last month, we were joined by Phil Tran, who founded a company in Vietnam. Um, and this month, we have the pleasure of having Ella and Rafael join us from Vietnam as well. Can you guys introduce yourself and let the audience know a little bit about your background?
Sure.
Yeah, so as he would have said, my name's Rafael Masters. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vulcan. I'm from the UK originally, and I've been in Vietnam for about 15 years now, running Vulcan for the last 4 years. And my background within the company, I cover the tech side, and my background is basically a lifetime working with and around the disabled.
And myself is Ella. My Vietnamese name is actually Thanh Hạ. It means summer in Vietnamese. I was born here in actually in Tuy Hòa, a small town in Vietnam. Got UK educated. That's why part of the reason why we are also co-founder now. So at Vulcan, I'm the co-founder and COO. I take care that whatever tech that Rafael and the engineer can make, I can sell to the markets.
Yeah, tell us about, one of the things that really caught me when the first time I met you was just the company's mission and what you guys are doing. What is it that drives you? What is the mission? And then what is it that drives you about the mission?
So I guess the sort of the wild dream version of this is we want to build a kind of company where people feel more confident and safe simply knowing we exist. By which I mean that whatever your disability or your infirmity or mobility challenge, whatever it is, you know that Vulcan is there. You can go to this company and they can help you find that solution, and it will be convenient and easy, and it will come straight to you. So for me, like I want a company where people feel all around the world feel safer simply knowing that we exist.
I think we haven't shared with we and the audience what we do.
Yeah, we've gone straight to us and the mission. Would you like the company introduction as well?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Very briefly.
So yeah, as you may gather from the name, Vulcan Augmetics, our goal is to build a platform and ecosystem for human augmentation technology. And we're starting with assistive technology, and more specifically as our leading startup product, we're working on prosthetic arms and sensor technology.
Yeah, I love the way you guys use that, say assistive technologies and augmentation, basically augmenting the human experience. So
yes.
What were you going to say?
I was just about to share on the start of Vulcan.
Yeah, sure.
Or myself.
Yeah, go for it. I mean, so the initial story of Vulcan, that kind of comes from my experience growing up. In the UK, I grew up about 200 meters away from the biggest disabled college in the country, a place called Lord Mayor Trelaws. Most of my friends, like teenage friends growing up, were in wheelchairs or very technology dependent. And they were lucky in that they had an incredible amount of resources, and that enabled them to live full everyday lives. And then when I came over here to Vietnam, I did a bit more work in special needs and disability, primarily through education. And I wanted to start a company. I always knew that I wanted to, create something that would make a difference. And I didn't know enough about business, so I took an MBA. And very shortly after that, I met a venture studio called Ali 51. And we started Vulcan as almost a research project. It was called Project Iron Man at the time. And about 6 months of R&D, we had a small team of engineers. We had our first user, Doug. He's an amputee. He's still with us as our head of sales.
Yes.
And about 6 months in, we decided, yeah, this is viable. We can make it work. Let's establish and go forward. And at that point, they brought in Ella as a project manager. And originally she was, they had 3 companies they were looking at, and she was assigned to Vulcan as Project Iron Man. And just was an incredible executor and very effective at getting us organized, pushing us to look beyond product to sales. And so I think within about 6 months, I made the fantastic decision, I have to say, to bring her on as co-founder.
Yeah, that's one of the things we will probably talk about later on in the program is how you find a co-founder, because it's a very tough and lonely journey, you know, as a company founder, and having somebody that you can you know, chit chat and share with along the journey it's a pretty essential part of a successful company. So assistive technologies, I mean, can you kind of give us a little bit more an idea of what that means and what's the scope of that? Because, you know, starting with prosthetics is helping actually someone who needs an additional limb or something, but assistive technologies, I can see it could be exoskeletons or some automation that alleviates human labor. I mean, what is it that where's the scope of where your company is going?
The scope where we're going is essentially any way you put hardware onto your body. Looking at assistive technology, there are quite a few areas where this is applied. So yeah, there's where we're starting, prosthetics. There's also orthotics. There is rehabilitative aids. There is ones that are slightly further away from us, but anywhere where you're putting things like, you know, glasses, hearing aids, cochlear aids, and implants. And the other one is it also branches and interleaves quite well with elderly care. So for elderly care, you're looking at things more like remote monitors, exoframes specifically for walking, and that links further into industrial use cases, which is the same again, remote monitoring devices and exosuits. So like companies like Hyundai are currently deploying exosuits in their car factories, for example. And all of this depends on having really good sensor technology that can actually read what the human body is doing accurately and respond to it.
So that go beyond assisted tech. Eventually we go beyond assisted technology and go into human augmentation technology. So it's not just assisted tech, but we focus the first 5 years on assisted technology, and eventually we just the one platform that you can upgrade your body. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's great. I mean, assistive technology, I can see. I mean, the code name Iron Man actually conjures up a lot of fantastical applications of assistive technologies. So Rafael, you mentioned something just now about starting with the sensors and picking up human signals and physical signals in terms of movement. That seems like a core technology you guys are working on, and that technology is now being used for prosthetics, but I can see many pivot points from that technology. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that technology?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, our sensors use EMG, electrocardiography. It's essentially, it reads the electrical signals and resistance from your muscles when you move them. What's unique about our system is it's sort of interlinked. So we put multiple sensors on a single armband or platform, and we use machine learning so that you can read much more complex signals. And it also means that you can speed up calibration. For most of these type of sensors, they are put in a fixed location on your body, so you have to adapt your body to them. And they also are very limited. They're analog, so you can't really get a whole lot of signals. Whereas, yeah, we digitize it, we put it onto a wireless platform, we integrated machine learning so that you can actually have a lot more accurate calibration and response times. And the next step for us is integrating other sensors such as optics, gyro, and motion, so that we can get more improved device control. And this can extend from, like you said, prosthetics is the first use case, but this is also applicable for things like remote medical monitoring. Actually, optical sensors are now being used for things like glucose levels. You can also use it for exosuits and skeletons. So building a frame outside the human body, it has to respond very accurately to human movement, which means it has to know exactly what it is you're trying to do. A prosthetic, you're replacing a part of the human body, and it's actually comparatively easy to build the entire thing yourself. But when you have to build a frame around this, squishy organic center, it really has to respond perfectly. And so this is why we think this kind of technology is incredibly valuable going forward. One other major use case we're seeing right now is VR and AR control sets. So for AR, for example, you don't want to actually have to physically hold the controller. This is a huge limitation on the technology, especially in the workplace. But companies such as Google, Meta, I think Co-op as well, they are working on similar technology to us, which is these armbands that you put on. They can read exactly what you're trying to do with your hands. So for AR, instead of having to, get your keyboard out manually, you can just sort of move your fingers and it will recognize the movements, or you can press buttons in mid-air and it will understand what you're trying to do. And the alternative to this at the moment is basically having cameras all around the room that track your movement. So by making it something that's mounted on the human, it's a lot more responsive, efficient, and effective for the workplace.
So for machine learning, does that mean you have a lot of people using your product, or how do you get the data?
So we commercially launched the product in 2021. And since then, we have 140 users who, frequent user of our robotic arms. But the latest sensor technology we launched was actually just a few months ago in October. And we have an incredible, amount of people who previously using our more basic sensor system, also Bluetooth enabled, but more basic, no machine learning part. And since then, we have 10 to 20% of the previous user batch now adapting, like upgrading their sensor before to the newest sensor technology. And like Rafael mentioned before, actually, like a lot of companies are trying to do the mechanical, like complication part, and they forgot that however great the hand mechanism is, if you don't have a good sensor system as how the human interact with the hand, it's gonna be very hard for them to adapt to. So we have other robotic bionic arm startup approaching us to integrate our sensor onto their hands. So it's not just, it's not just us building the sensor for our own product, but our sensor already, being used to other assistive tech brands too.
Yeah,
I see.
At this stage,
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, at this stage, we've deployed very, very basic machine learning only on the sensor side of the platform. It also is going to be integrated into our app and into the hand device itself. So in fact, all of the elements of our ecosystem will have a certain amount of processing and machine learning gone through them. The next step for us in terms of software is to actually build the online backend. So we collect data from the user's hands and bands. That goes to the app, and then the app will push information up to the website on like a bi-weekly or monthly basis. That gives us the chance to do some algorithm refinement and some more training across like multiple users' data. And then we can push those updates back down so everyone's product gets upgraded.
Yeah, I think some of the people in the audience may be like surprised to hear that this type of technology is being developed in Vietnam. In the US, you probably have secrets, super secret facilities with like hundreds of engineers working on sensor technology. And I've been to your office and it's not super secret and they're not hundreds of engineers. So talk to us about your recruiting. How do you find your engineers to do this technology? It seems cutting edge.
I think it's so we have been developing this technology the last 5 years, and the type of engineer we have at different stage is different. Right, Rafael? So our first two engineers are very disruptive. Like they would just glue things together to make a prototype.
Our first two engineers were incredibly creative, innovative, and also chaotic. So what that means is we got an incredible sort of incredible speed for our early development. We got a whole load of innovation. They would sort of be constantly going online and sending new sort of ideas and links. They're the kind of people who, if we've 3D printed a prototype and we need to change the shape of it, they'll get a heat gun and just melt it into the right shape.
Yes.
And for the early days, like when you're going for proof of concept, how quickly can we move? That's fantastic.
Exactly.
But as soon as you start moving to, okay, we need to get, licensing certification,
ISO,
organization, ISOs, then you kind of have to move on a bit. So a lot of the recruitment we have is we actually, we've got good connections with a lot of the universities here. And we also have a very clear and visible vision and mission and a product that's rapidly iterated. So one of the things about engineers, or at least one of the things about talented engineers, is they love to build stuff, they love a challenge, and they love to see their work actually be deployed onto users. They love to see people valuing what they've created. And that, compared to a lot of other kinds of startups, that gives us a massive recruiting advantage. We get engineers who would take a significant pay cut to join us because they simply know that they can have an impact and that their product and their work will be respected. You know, they're not just going to be sitting in a tiny corner of the Toyota or the Bosch factory designing one little widget that's going to be deployed, you know, once every 6 months. They actually get to do stuff. And so that means we have a big advantage in bringing them on board. And because of we're quite good at branding as well. So that also means we have quite a lot of them that actually come and directly approach us. Our machine learning lead, he's currently taking a PhD at Princeton in machine learning and advanced human robotics. DARPA are trying to steal him from us, but so far he has resisted. He actually came to us originally. He saw what we were doing. And when we met him, he just received a $10,000 grant to develop a prosthetic himself. He has the grant because he won the competition of developing the prosthetics. Yeah, so he developed this amazing product, visual recognition. It was very early stage and 3D printed and a bit janky, but he'd been given a grant to do this, and he actually offered the company like, yeah, I'll come and work for you and I'll just give you this grant, this $10,000. So it's not very often you have a company where people want to pay you to work for you. So I think we have something special. No, that literally was not the only case. Our head of engineering also invest in us, and literally we took his investment to pay him for the next 1 year. So a lot of our most talented engineer are from that kind of background. They're so talented and they won a lot of award and they can earn so much that they just come to Vulcan and kind of contribute. But as the company grow, we are more, let's say, mature and less. We don't have to rely on this quite so much now. So our team is actually the back of team we have right now is very talented but most stable, and they do a lot of documentation. We know where the files store, everything is very also process driven. So as founder and also Rafael's running team, our mission is to keep the passion in the engineer, but making sure that we have system and documentation in place to be a proper medical device. That is one of the biggest issues with managing top engineering talent. They're not the biggest fans of documentation. They're very keen to just make stuff and go, and we have to it takes some training to get them fully aligned with what we're doing.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have to balance between kind of a maker mentality, someone who likes to make and tinker, with the depth of technical skill. And this gentleman that you found from Princeton, or actually he found you guys, it sounds like a good balance of someone who's deeply technical, as well as have an inquisitive mind to make things. So did you think that's more driven by the technology or by the mission, or both? Because some people, I think this is where I think maybe your mission is actually a recruiting point, right? It helps illuminate why this technology, all this field of technology is so exciting.
I'm gonna have to say it's definitely both. Absolutely. So the mission is nice, and it's something that lets people feel validated and justified in their work. But when you talk to engineers, if you're not going to get top talent if you can't present them with a real technical challenge. And I had this conversation with one of our R&D potential hires a couple of weeks ago. They were looking at our starting product, the hand itself, and commented that it seemed a fairly sort of simple, basic bit of engineering. And so I had to sort of have a 30-minute discussion with him, talking him through each element of the design. It looks really simple, but it's the result of years of actually talking to users and figuring out how people use the product. And it's also a vitally necessary stage to use with more advanced technology. So we have a lot of people who will come in and look at what we do, and they'll see on the surface, they just see, oh yeah, that's a prosthetic hand. It's fairly affordable. It's fairly simple engineering. And then we have to explain to them, yeah, you need the prosthetic hands to have some input for the sensor platform, which is, incredibly advanced, uses machine learning. It's market beating. It can do things that no other product can. And we're going to have to develop more advanced, or find more advanced partners with this sort of mechanical side in order to get access to better outputs, so we can improve the sensor technology. And it all ties together. So we have to be able to show engineers that what we do is useful and viable now, and there is deep tech behind it, and it's part of a clear roadmap to develop something that is, world beating. And that's the kind of thing that will draw them on. It really does take both elements.
Yeah, so you mentioned partnerships. So how do you find that in Vietnam? I'm not aware of any robotic centers or companies that are big in robotics in Vietnam. So how do you find partners? Like, I'm assuming laboratories, resources into new technologies, new materials, just new schematics, a lot of things that I don't believe is probably readily available in Vietnam. So how do you guys find that?
So within Vietnam, finding technical partners who are like other businesses is a challenge, but we actually, like, most of the universities know us and know what we're doing and are quite keen to work together. So for example, we work with RMIT, we're on their industry advisory board, and we do regular capstone projects with them. We also had I think it was the International University. They have a biomedical department they're really interested in our plans for this year, which is going to be we're beginning to integrate EEG sensors into our product. Those are, headsets, brainwave sensors. There are a few commercial platforms that have recently been released that will be totally compatible with our product, so we can have the world's first actually mind-controlled prosthetic. And that's something that they're really keen to work with us on the research there. But that's what we mostly find is it's academic institutions within Vietnam. Looking outside of Vietnam, we do have other companies that approach us. We have startups that do also prosthetics and assistive technology and other assistive devices. They want to work with us, and that's both on the technology side and on figuring out how to actually, penetrate the market here in Vietnam and what the connection should be. And so another example is Singapore, which we're flying out there next week, actually. We're trying to build a partnership at the moment with SG Enable. We're joining RAISE, which is, the Singapore Social Impact Organization. And we're flying over there next week. We're going to be talking to SG Enable to do a pilot program in Singapore by the end of this year. And so for them, like, SG Enable have fantastic access to both technology companies, resources, universities. So really excited to take that forward. And we're also trying to bring forward a project with NTU revolving around turning 3D printing into a more viable method of manufacture, because right now it's not, and we're looking at moving to injection molding to scale this year. But if we can find ways with them to make 3D printing like more practical for this type of product, then that would also be a huge market changing result.
And I think I want to add here that opportunity to presenting our story to audience, like what you're creating for us really help put our brand out there. RMT approach us, startup around the world approach us thanks to this kind of opportunity when we share on channels of entrepreneurship or startup or technology. So I hope that after this episode, we also have more partnership, more university, more and more talents coming to us through your channels.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we wanted to do, was to create a global platform. And there's universities here in the US, I think, that would love to work with you guys. They have centers of robotics. So I'm not sure if you have a chance, but to reach out to like maybe the top 5 to 10 engineering schools in the US. A few of them have robotics as an area of interest. And in terms of, I know the University of Michigan does, because they are centered in Michigan, and Michigan is like the home of the automotive industry, which has a lot of robotics in it. So, reaching out to the US universities and working with them not only gives you resources, but also a lot of credibility and, of course, a new market, to enter. So, we could talk about after the show about reaching out to US companies and even European companies. I think the time difference may present a challenge, but I think with all the technologies in place to do video calls and conference calls over the internet, I think it should be okay.
Exactly.
I mean, this is really exciting. I mean, we've spent the first half of this program talking about the technologies and how you found your engineering team. So tell us more, in a compact version, what is the most challenging part of being a technology startup founder?
Well, I can't speak to it in general, but just from my personal experience, One of the biggest challenges I have is actually narrative, funnily enough, because you're always told like, when you go and present your company to people, you need to have a clear story and a clear narrative. And one of the big challenges I often face is we show people what we're doing and we show them the initial product and the hardware that we built, and they immediately pigeonhole us as just a prosthetics company. Like, oh, these guys are just making prosthetic hands, that's all they're doing. And they find it very hard to look beyond that and see, like, you need the prosthetic hand to get input to build this machine learning powered sensor technology. And the machine learning powered sensor technology is a globally scalable, leverageable product across multiple industries. But they see our users with their, cool robot hands, and we do have fantastic branding around that, and we play to that strength. But that's what they see, and that's all they see. So one of the big challenges that I have is trying to build a message that shows clearly both what we're doing now and how that contributes to where we want to go in the future. There are other sort of challenges that come with, running a company, but specifically for our journey with Vulcan, that has been one of my major challenges.
How about you, Ella?
For me, I think, I don't know, every day I wake up, and apart from asking myself how to push sales, how to, help Rafael with products, I'm constantly asking how to make the team, just motivated and happy all the time. So you can see that our background is quite a nice office, and like with Iron Man paint, and you've been there. It's quite, let's say, it's comfortable enough. But this is just the new office for 1 year. Like before that, we have to run on very low budget, and we have to rent a place where every morning you came to work and you see cockroaches and rats like everywhere in the office. Like it was that kind of environment. And I was, as founder, we always feel we feel like we can do better for our team, right? Yeah, but sometimes we're just so busy, like so many things, like running sales team, like fundraising. And I know that I need to spend more time looking after the team, making sure that they're okay, the working condition is okay. The production room right now is actually still very hot because
it's a top floor, so
yeah,
it takes lots of sun.
So I'm just saying that for me personally, it's emotional and mentally struggle that we have to do better for our team, who committed so much to the company vision, who left their high-paying job or whatever better career ladder, came to Vulcan. So I just want to make sure that we are giving them the best experience as team member. And I always feel that is not enough. So every day we are trying, we are moving ahead, but I don't feel like it's just enough. So I need to get through that barrier.
I think actually I'm going to add one more challenge to that, which I think is something that both of us have. It is, being a founder is constantly learning that you were wrong. And it's constantly being aware that at any minute you could be wrong, and that you are a work in progress, and that you constantly have to improve and be better, both for the company and the team. And that sometimes can be, it can be a little bit exhausting. It can also be exhilarating, when you see how much you've grown. But then there are also moments when you look back and think, wow, I've just learned how to deal with this situation really well. And now thinking about how I dealt with a similar situation a year ago I was so ignorant. And I'm also aware that in 1 year's time, I'm going to be looking back at this and thinking exactly the same thing. And I think, that's just keeping up that constant sort of motivation to grow and learn is also another big challenge for a founder. We're very lucky that we actually, are able to work together and have co-founders.
At least we don't have to
do this alone.
And do it alone, or we don't have to fight with each other, right? And I think we are most of the time just aligned and happily working together.
Yeah, I mean, about the environment for the employees, you guys know in the US, Steve Jobs started out in a garage. I'm not sure if there were rats in his garage.
But that's just himself, right?
but the startup world is full of challenges, and environment is one of them, the working environment. But I'm glad that this is something of a focus for you guys to improve the environment for people to work in, because it is a key factor in productivity. And you see that in Silicon Valley companies where they have ping pong tables and cafeterias that are ready nearby for people to relax and play games and just become friends at the workplace. So I'm glad that Ella is taking note of that. And
Always.
Rafael, your comments about like the other challenge of continuing like to find out that you're wrong. The way I read that is more like you're a person that continually wants to learn and reiterate and pivot. And to be honest, as a VC, as somebody who's invested in technology companies, that's a key character trait that you need to be a founder. And many times VCs, they understand that, you know, what you're investing in now most likely would change. The product and the focus is going to change because the market demands and the opportunities that come while you are on this journey will change and fluctuate depending on the situation, depending on who you meet or who you don't meet, you know, how much money comes in, the market and fluctuations, the trends. So the one thing that remains constant that doesn't change is the founder's ability to adapt and to learn. And if you recognize and you accept that you make mistakes, I think that's a really good sign of a promising founder. So I encourage you to keep thinking that you are being wrong. but in a sense, I think it's a good character trait, and I'm happy to hear that, because I think that's going to take you a long way, and I think it's going to take you to the finish line. You and Ella, you continue to explore things, looking at things, evaluating things, and making sure that you're adjusting as the situation demands. So, you know, you guys talked about finding, you know, a fit and being aligned. I'm assuming that's probably one of the hardest things to do as a founder, is to find somebody that's compatible. So talk to us about how you guys found each other.
Well, I think we kind of had a cheat code here. I mean, I did not find Ella. She magically appeared one day. So we have the venture studio that I work with, Ali 51. That is run by an incredibly talented woman called Phu Yen, and she has I think she's just one of the most caring and insightful people I know, and she's very, very good at finding talent, selecting talent. And I was running Vulcan inside the incubator for about 6 months, and then she sort of found Ella and brought her on board as a project manager. And yeah, Ella just excelled in her role. I mean, it was incredibly fortunate that one, that I found a venture studio who could help me build this, and two, that they were able to find Ella. How did you come to Ali 51?
So I think when I met Phu Yen, I just stepped out of my previous startup that didn't go too well. They lost over 9 months of product market validation. And that was an e-commerce, like, so not too excited like Vulcan, but I got out of that and feeling quite miserable, but I still want to do something in startup. Like, I'm looking for inspiration, like what to start next. I even consider going to VC routes. Like, maybe I could be an analyst. Like, I can just see so many startups at the same time and learn from them. But when I met Phu Yen, he once referred to me through my current fiance, by the way.
I love the way you say current fiance.
Oh, sorry, my fiance. My fiance. Because to be married soon. My fiance, and then I met Phu Yen and I share about my story, and then my my goal in the future of building my own startup. But right now I don't know, I don't have any inspiration or vision for the next startup yet. And I also share that I may go into VC. And after talking to me, he was like, Ella, you're not VC. You're the most hands-on and like a person I could ever met talking about building startup. You were so like your drive, like could see that you wake up and you need to get stuff done. Like if you have to look at a startup and you cannot do anything about it as a VC most of the time, like it's gonna drive you crazy. And I was like, you're right. So she's like, let me take you to my, I happen to have my incubator. Let me take you there. And so I met quite a few startups, and one of them is Vulcan. I didn't choose Vulcan specifically at first because I was thinking that I did not have the background of deep tech. I was from e-commerce, right? Of deep tech to work on robotic sensor technology. But seeing Rafael and the team just inspired me. And like, I'm not sure if I shared a little bit earlier that also my dad served the military. So I just saw a lot of veterans and people with disability through my childhood. And when I saw what Rafael was trying to bring into the Vietnam community, I'm just inspired. Like Vietnam has known to the world about just Vietnam War. I'm just thinking about Vietnam War and people with disability from the war. But now, because we have so many people with disability, there's a problem. So there's an opportunity to bring these people into the next stage of technology innovation. So yeah, I got inspired, and turned out that Rafael is a pleasant person to work with.
So Rafael, do you remember the light bulb that came on, the moment where you said, wait a minute, I should ask Ella to join as a co-founder? What was it that happened, and was it any character trait that kind of stood out that made you think that?
I don't think there was like a sudden event that inspired it. It was just, I've been working with her for 6 months, and I'd seen her sort of be incredible at leading, motivating the team, and sort of organizing and building things up. And I think there was just an evening where I was like, wait, so like, why haven't I made her a co-founder? I mean, I don't like, yeah, sure, right now I have all of the equity in the company, which is lovely, it's wonderful, but 100% of nothing is nothing. And it's, given how much that she contributes and is putting forward and is building the company, she absolutely should have a stake, and also I should do everything I can to keep her as long as possible. So yeah, I wouldn't say there was a single thing that she did. It was more like I had a sudden moment of realization where I was looking back and I was like, oh, I should have done that already. That was really stupid.
Good one.
So Ella, I mean, you said that it wasn't your first choice. Was it hard to accept? And when Rafael came to you with this proposition, was it easy to say, hey, yeah, I love your mission, I'm on board? Or did you say, well, let me take a couple months to think about it?
Well, like I share with you, I'm very inspired. At the same time, as I was a founder myself, right? And having my own vision is a different thing. Like sometimes I feel like, okay, it's gonna be co-founder with Rafael, then I have to commit the next 5 to 10 years with this company, which means I should not dream about other inspiration or vision. Just commit it, just Vulcan. So I was very honored to be invited on board as co-founder. At the same time, personally, to me, it's a commitment that I need to make to Rafael and the team, and that means that I need to forget about my own. I gotta be a little bit like, I have to be selfless. Like I just focus on Vulcan, and I don't focus about me as why don't I have my own vision? But Vulcan vision deserve to have more partners, more co-founders, more people who dedicated to the vision. So yeah, it took a little bit of time to think through, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my entrepreneurial life to date.
Wow, I mean, it must
I'm
have
very
been
glad to hear that end sentence. I was getting a bit nervous.
Well, I mean, the fact that she's still going to get married is a good indicator, right? Because if she couldn't balance work and personal life, I don't think there would be a wedding, right? So that's a good.
Ella's much better at that than me. She's much better at balancing work and personal life, I have to say. For me, it tends to be like wake up, go to Vulcan, go home, and have like an hour's rest, and then open the laptop and crack on with emails and work until ridiculous o'clock. So I have to actually. Yeah, that's something I have to work on this year.
You did mention that as a challenge. It is the challenge to separate yourself from the work, to fully enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose that's something that I actually need to do a lot more, and I guess I haven't really regarded it as a challenge, because it's hard for me to have the mentality that I should not be working sometimes. It's like, I've started Vulcan, this is what I'm doing, I do it until it's done. And it's sometimes difficult to make myself step away for a minute.
Yeah. So I mean, like, you've been around for like 3 years now, 2 to 3 years.
4 and a bit officially.
Yeah.
4 years. So, was there a hard hiring decision that you made, in the sense that you want to hire them, but maybe, you know, compensation issues or some other issue happened during the hiring process, or after hiring them, something happened and you had to like make a difficult decision? Any kind of HR issues during the founding stage or during the last 3 or 4 years that presented a challenge, a learning lesson, an opportunity to learn?
Which one should we go for?
Oh, wow.
For the
That-
4 years of hiring and firing, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
never all smooth.
Yeah.
Lucy?
because I mean, hiring is a key part of building the culture, right?
Hmm.
So I would assume that this is very important, like who you bring onto the team, you know, what their interests are, you know, their value system, because that all lends to building a team environment, a culture around this mission critical project. So
Maybe Rafael share about
I think
letting
some of the,
go.
yeah, some of the, so we've actually found that when you bring in junior engineers or team members, it's actually a bit more easier to get them aligned. But when you bring in someone who is senior, that can be very, very disruptive for a team, and you have to very, very carefully sort of, I don't like the idea of micromanaging, but you kind of have to do that for like the first month or so to make sure that the team that you've sort of built up is not hugely disrupted. Like I hire experts to be experts. I expect them to come in and actually bring that knowledge and skills with them and make changes, but also to actually spend some time learning the team, the culture, the mission, and doing things that align with that. I think there have been times when, yeah, people have just not really got on board with what we're doing or the company culture, and that has sometimes proved to be a challenge. Yeah, culture is a big one. I think another one is, there is like office politics is a killer. So you have to very, very carefully build cultures and outlets and systems that either filter that out or give it a safe kind of way to ground itself. And that's something that can be from junior members. Again, you can generally deal with it. For senior members, like you brought them in a role of authority, and as the CEO, technically, like one challenge as a CEO, I can come in and I can basically do anything. I have the authority to hire and fire and whatever. You know, I can technically countermand any decision by any manager, but you're not supposed to do that. If you bring in a manager, they're supposed to be there to manage well, and you're not supposed to undercut their authority. So balancing that out in the initial onboarding period and making sure that they're aligned with culture is, I'd say that's probably the biggest challenge that I've had personally with hiring.
I think I want to add on that. I think we're talking about a similar case now, but you see that earlier we said that we have a very beautiful vision and mission that people would love to come on board, and we were so lucky to have many people who joined because of that. But at the same time, I could feel that some team members, sadly, they came with their own agenda. So let's say that they want to build up their, you know, narrative or whatever that attached with Vulcan. And as long as it's, you know, the both are growing, then it's fine. But sometimes they just drive the, you know, they just want so much attention to themselves and just drive the company into just, you know, politics.
Yeah, spinning our wheels.
Yeah. So we, as founder, sometimes we just got a little bit too excited with those who is excited about our vision, without, you know, going through extra mile of filtering, you know, what their actual motivation, what, you know, what agenda they have in mind when coming to us, even offering, you know, some lower pay compared to their previous job, but that doesn't mean that they are fully dedicated to Vulcan. And, you know, yeah, so
how do you guys built into your hiring decision process ways to filter these issues? I mean, how to
our hiring process is a lot longer.
Sorry?
Our hiring process has got quite a bit longer. I feel like there's that old adage, you know, hire fast. No, we were told at the beginning, I've read this a few times, yeah, hire fast, you know, fail fast. But what we've learned is, yeah, hire slow and fire fast is the way to go. And our hiring process has got a lot longer and more involved. So for a management role, for example, there'll be, now there's a technical interview, there's a culture interview, there's an introduction to the team and a chance for them to sort of have Q&A and give us some feedback. Especially because if it's a technical hire, then we need people who have that particular technical skill to give us feedback, which is generally the engineering team themselves. And spending a lot more time like orienting them and preparing them for what the culture is, and making sure that like they actually have clear expectations of what they're going into and a clear idea of what we expect of them.
Okay. I mean, we've approached the 45-minute mark, and usually at this point we kind of open it up to the audience to ask questions. I have a few here that's popped up. So
audience questions.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, this is a long question. Let me read it to you. I think, and then maybe you guys can answer. They said, first of all, congratulations on the great job you guys are doing. Please allow me to ask some quick questions from the top of my head. What technology do you use to send sensor data to a global centralized server, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or XXX? That's the first question. Do you use a specific operating system on your prosthetic hardware devices? For example, let's say you use Linux as the infrastructure to handle security and build on top of it, where everything is pretty much developed from scratch to interface with other technologies. And then it goes on to ask about, is all your hardware developed in-house, or do you buy components from outside and assemble them in-house? Is all your hardware and software preparatory, or do you outsource part of it? For example, the software, in terms of machine learning, what language do you guys use? R, Python, C++, or what? Last question for today. What would be the area of development that isn't moving as fast as you would like to, moving not only in the sense of speed, but of efficiency? That's the first question.
Sounds like coming from an engineer.
So,
all right, so time to talk fast. Currently, the sensor band itself, it uses EMG, will build in optics data. It currently connects to the hand with Bluetooth, but the hand uses an ESP32 chip, so we can actually connect with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and it also has the option for radio frequencies, which is, I guess, another way of saying Bluetooth. And that connects with the app and with the hand. And the way that operates is initially the app serves as sort of a connecting device between the two, as a hub to let you calibrate and sort of connect them to each other. And then from then on, both of those products run the process by themselves. The band itself has a little bit of machine learning on it to basically take the analog EMG signal and digitize it into a 64-dimensional packet so that it's something that the hand can interpret properly. It will send on to the hand will do a little bit of its own processing to determine what the signal means and then operate according to what the user requests. Languages we are using, I believe we're on React and Flutter at the moment. We built up everything ourselves with the goal of cross-compatibility. As it is Bluetooth, it is compatible with most devices, and we've looked at the conventional pairing designations, and it's designed to interface with most of the products that are there in the market. Actually integrating it will take a bit more work because we need to get hold of their APIs and SDKs, but it's been designed from the ground up to do that. In terms of where the tech expertise comes from or where it's developed, every single thing that we do is designed in-house. On the hardware side, I think something like 90% of our core components are outsourced, and the components arrive here and we do final assembly.
In terms of production, outsourced in terms of
production? Yes, in terms of production. All the design is in-house, but 90% of the components are outsourced, and then they arrive here and we do the final assembly. And this is a necessity because as it's a medical product, you need to have ISO 13485 to be able to actually get it certified. So yeah, most of the components come here, we do final assembly, ship it out the door. Our software, entirely developed in-house. One of the things that we want to do this year is actually expand the software team because that area is a little bit behind where I'd like it to be. We do have some ML integration on the Myo band, the sensor right now, but we need to implement it more on the hand. We need to also build up the online backend so that we can actually start sort of really collecting and improving on the algorithms using that data.
Yeah, and it's not available on iOS yet. It's just Android.
Well, the reason it's not available on iOS yet is primarily because the App Store is really, really difficult to work with. We have the app ready, it just takes forever for them to approve.
Yeah,
I think
so
that's most of it.
because that makes because we're selling the army to user, and some of them just have iPhones and they cannot connect to the band.
Yeah.
And they literally buy a new phone to be able to wear Vulcan product. So that's a little bit silly.
Yeah, the big blocker, I guess, the thing that's frustrating me and not moving as well as we'd like. So there's the machine learning side. One other thing that is like less technical, but still an irksome thing. We need to optimize the product for mass manufacture this year. So at the moment, we do 3D print a lot of stuff, like all of the plastics are done in-house. Main reason for that is getting the molds for injection molding is prohibitively expensive, and you don't want to do that until you've absolutely finalized your design. So that's what we're looking to do in the next 3 to 6 months. And that has been a bit of a source of wait for everything to be 3D printed.
Okay, we got a couple more questions here. Should you start an advisory panel? And how do you find advisors?
Oh, should
Wait,
we?
is that's a question?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Should we start an advisory panel?
Same question as we. You asked us the same question.
Yeah, well,
That's a good question, isn't it?
It is. So we have several advisors already that are incredibly talented. We haven't sort of formalized this into a panel or board yet, but I think, as at the stage we're getting to now, where we're looking at sort of international B2B deployment and going into multiple different countries and working with much larger medtech organizations, I think that that's something that we are definitely going to have to set up in the next couple of months.
Yeah, but we do have tech advisor who works for Amazon, Philips, and the biggest robotics manufacturer in the world. And then we have a global branding advisor, also have business model advisor and investment advisor. So I think we have, and we also presently having medical advisor too. So I think we have a good set of advisor coming from different expertise. But we were just too busy today to
We do them individually, really.
To formalize them and connect them all together.
So it sounds like you pick advisors based on a substantive need.
Yes.
Yeah. More so than the, I guess, personality fit.
Well,
circumstantial.
Not really. I mean, if we need them a lot, but we can't work with them, then there's no point. So personality fit is really, really important, but it's not enough by itself. That there has to be a clear value proposition that they can deliver to us. They have to have knowledge we don't, skills we don't, network or connections that we don't, something that helps us grow. We want more than just a nice conversation, if that makes sense.
And we are being good mentee, and we are coachable.
Yes, we have been told this. We are coachable, but that requires a coach.
So another question is like difficult part of it is like how do you value yourself when you're raising money? How do you come up with a valuation?
So primarily we look at comparables. So the medtech industry is a little bit different from many in that there's generally it tends to be much more capital intensive early on. It's a much longer time to market. There are a lot more regulatory and licensing roadblocks and milestones to achieve. What that means is that a lot of medtech companies achieve higher valuations based on different milestones. So for something like a SaaS or software company, you look at DAU or sort of the number of users and trends that they have been growing. Whereas for medtech, at the early stage at least, you look at the technology they built. Is it certified? Does it have clear demand? Is it ready for market? Do clinics accept it? Have you done user trials? And so for these kind of things, actually our valuation is low compared to most of the market, but that's kind of a reflection of the geography that we are presently in.
But investor do, like a lot of investor, they coming from fintech or SaaS or platform. And when they come to us and they ask how many users you have, I was like, 140, it's like 140 user. And with this valuation, because when you come in from 100,000 of user, and go to a deep tech company and just looking at user and revenue, I don't think is project enough of our potential in the future.
Yeah, why don't you tell people what you mean by deep tech? I think a lot of people may not know what that means.
Applying machine learning to read biosignals from the human body and allowing you to control any external device with your body. At the moment, that is the hardware side of that is reasonably well developed. We have optical and EMG sensors. The software and actual control systems for that are years and years behind. And it's something where, just to give an example, standard control systems for prosthetics, ones that use pattern recognition, they'll cost you between $15,000 to $22,000.
The sensor set itself.
Yeah, and that's the sensor set with a little bit of software on it. We actually have we can produce a superior product at a cost point of about $5,000, and that's equivalent to what they are doing, if not better, in terms of control sets. And that's sort of what we mean by deep technology. This software that can recognize all these different biosignals. So that's also why we want to do fusion sensors, not just EMG, but building in other things like deep EMG, EEG, optics, much wider range of things.
Yeah, deep technology for VCs means that the technology, in my understanding, it's a technology that takes a little longer to develop for commercial use. And so it takes a long way. So you when you say that, you may be indicating to VCs that there's a longer life cycle before you get to an exit.
Yeah.
So you may want to like amend that.
Okay. It's not that you can just hire a outsource firm and make your product in the next few
it's
weeks.
basically it's involved. It takes some time to develop this technology. Yeah. So instead of like 2 or 3 years for the first MVP, it's like 5 to 7, 10 years before you can get that technology off to kind of a commercial start. I think we have time for one more question. There seems to be the person that asked the long question. They said that you missed the last question. I think you answered it. The area of development that isn't moving as fast.
Not
I think
moving fast enough. Yeah,
with the machine learning, right?
Yeah, integrating the machine learning, like the online backend, we need to set up the servers, bring in data scientists, get that fully up and running, and also switching over from 3D printing to more conventional mixed and mass manufacture methods. Yeah.
Okay, this is we have a few minutes, and before we typically play this game before we conclude the program, and we ask our speakers, are they a pho person or a gum person?
Sorry, pho or
gum, like rice or noodle?
Oh my god, that's so funny. I'm gum. I'm just gum person.
Oh yeah, why is that?
You can combine a lot of stuff with gum, so you can literally have gum every day.
Yeah.
Right? Pho is just pho.
Okay. How about you, Rafael? Don't be influenced by Ella. So if you're on an island, would you have fun?
I was like, initially I was gonna say noodles, just because recently I've gotten into eating bún chả Hanoi, and that's like, I'm loving it at the moment.
Yes. Bún chả Hanoi is very good.
Thinking about what I actually eat on a regular basis, I have to go with Ella. I eat gum. Yeah,
I'm a gum guy for the very same reason Ella talks about, because you can eat it with everything. You can eat it with soup too, right?
Exactly.
And for some reason it fills my stomach. Whereas pho, it's like it's tasty for a moment, but it doesn't have that sense of completeness, right?
Oh my god.
Yes, actually, okay, I'll go with that. Like, there's nothing sadder than having eaten your noodles and you just got like this bowl full of soup and there's no substance left to it. So yeah, at least with gum you get a proper empty plate. I've eaten this. Okay, well, the second question we ask our participants is like, what are the 3 common activities at a Vietnamese wedding?
All
the time. What is it?
That's like the number 1 activity in the Vietnamese wedding is drinking, copious amounts.
Other than drinking, because I think most weddings have it, but unique to Vietnamese weddings. I mean, like the tradition of the husband and bride having to go around to every single table and have a drink with every single table, and by the end of the wedding, like the groom is barely able to stand. That's true. But I think for me, that I've observed in all the Vietnamese weddings, I've gone to weddings, and then the Vietnamese weddings, the one unique part about Vietnamese weddings is there's always karaoke.
Wait,
no, but
there's
Is
one
that
more.
true?
no, that's a good one. No, if you have karaoke, then it's a good wedding because it sounds like people are very engaging. Because nowadays, if you go to wedding in Ho Chi Minh City, people just come in and just leave. There's no engaging. When you have karaoke, that means a good wedding.
You need someone
Really?
to.
So are you having a karaoke at your wedding, Ella?
No.
No? At my wedding, it was required. It was requested.
Because mine's a mixed Polish Vietnamese wedding, so there's more
Oh.
dancing, singing.
Oh yeah, and
Well, that's the other part of it.
Okay.
Vietnamese weddings always have like ballroom type dancing music.
Yeah, and there's one more that I've never seen a Vietnamese wedding without this. You must, like by law, have a pyramid of wine glasses.
By law.
And at some point, the husband and bride will get a bottle of, it looks like a champagne bottle, but they just got any red liquid and fill it with dry ice, and you have to pour into the pyramid. Nobody drinks this stuff. It would kill you if you drank it, but we have to have the big pyramid of glass, and we have to pour the drink all the way down from the top. Like that's just a thing. We saw it in Cinderella once. That's what we're doing.
Everywhere, yes, it's like a must.
So between ballroom dancing and singing, which ones would you guys do at your wedding?
So I will sing for sure, but I'm not sure if I allow the guests to sing.
I was going to say that, yeah. I'll have karaoke just to keep the drunk granddads and uncles happy, and ballroom dancing for me and the missus.
Okay. Well, congratulations, guys. I really enjoyed our time talking, and I'm sure that you guys will continue doing great things at Vulcan Augmetics. And let us know if there's anything we can do at Savvy Code to help you on your way, on your journey. And I'll see you guys in Vietnam in May, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
If anyone else has any follow-up questions, then we're very, very happy for them to reach out to us. We're findable on LinkedIn, Rafael Masters and Ella, or just type Vulcan Augmetics.
Yeah.
And our emails are available too. It's pretty simple. Mine, Rafael at wearevulcan.com, Ella at wearevulcan.com. And we'd love to hear any feedback or thoughts.
Yeah, and if you didn't get that, just send an email to contact@savvycode.com and we'll put you in touch with Rafael and Ella. Okay, thank you so much, and have a great evening, guys.
Thank you for your question. Yeah. And
okay, bye.
Bye.